drive the football and don't end up getting touchdowns. You keep trying to settle for field goals. I think we were moving it well and just not finding a way to punch it in and get that touchdown. It was obviously a day that, 7 points was what you were going to have to get when you had the football. And it's kind of one of those things that there's going to be days like that when you got to pick each other up on both sides of the ball. And we needed to, really have an opportunity to punch it in the end zone every time we touched it.
Yeah. And flipping ahead to Thursday, Matthew Stafford was talking about how he hasn't faced Seattle as much as the rest of you guys have. And so he's going to have to do some quick studying. Is that really a factor? Does he face a challenge with the quick turnaround?
I would argue he's probably seen the coverages and defenses that about anybody's going to play. So it's just more kind of, I think, putting in his head, hey, this is the week, and that'll be the challenge for him, right? For any quarterback in a short week is really the way we can attack these guys and really the philosophy of this defense. And I think that's more what it's going to be, is understanding what their habits are and really what the tendencies are, what you're going to play against on a short week like this. So, yeah, I think that it's an opportunity for us to bounce back and execute at a little better level than we did the other day. I think you really look at the tape, there's not a lot of physical errors as much as we just didn't execute as well as we had been the last couple of weeks. And, it matters in this league. You're going to have weeks where, it's you got to execute to win the game and you got to be able to score when you need to. And we weren't able to do that the other day.
Thanks, Andrew.
Gary?
Hey, Andrew. Jalen Ramsey was saying yesterday he's not necessarily a fan of Thursday night games, but understands, kind of the television implications and everything. What about you? How do you feel about playing a game like you did Sunday and turning around and having to play, 4 days later?
Oh, I think it's one of those things. It's always a topic, and it always seems like the team that's playing it that week is got a lot of problems with it, and the teams that don't really mind. And so it's one of those things. To me, it is what it is. It's part of our schedule, and it's not the most fun thing in the world to do. I think it's much better when you have one either earlier in the year or later in the year after a bye week, to where it's not really strung together in a long period of games where you're kind of leading up to it, because that the more beat up you are, the more kind of really you're dealing with injuries. Those Thursday night games can get kind of lopsided, and they can also get to where sometimes teams just don't have an opportunity to compete because they just don't have enough healthy enough guys to get everybody out there. So earlier in the year is definitely when you want to have it if you have to play them.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday, Darrell Henderson came back to the lineup and seemed like he was running the ball hard and well. What was kind of your sense in the huddle and on the field with how he was doing?
It was great. It was good to have him back and the energy he brings, and thought we ran the ball really well, and we're able to really be really efficient in the running game, and for when we could, and it's one of those things that we got to build off of it, and it's going to continue to be a part of our offense. That physicality in the run game is going to always have to exist, because you really look at the test of time. You see these seasons go, and a lot of teams are explosive in the first half of the season, year in and year out, and then that last half of the year is about your ability to run the football and play defense. And you can be as explosive as you want, but when you get there, if you're not able to run the football, when it comes down to trying to make the playoffs and getting in the playoffs, it usually ends up being a deciding factor in whether teams continue to move on or have that opportunity to play for one.
Thanks very much.
Jordan?
Andrew, I jumped on just a couple of seconds late, so apologies if you already addressed this. In terms of the short turnover period, a couple guys last night at the podium alluded to the fact that there just wouldn't be as much time to dig into this tape. But in terms of that, not only processing this and then preparing for the next, what is what's the time structure like? What's the time management like in the building for players, and then sort of what the schedule is going into this Thursday?
Yeah, I think it's hard to really break down this game as much as you're really on your own. You got to kind of go back and look at it and see what you could have done. And I think there's obviously if there's defensive calls or offensive calls that are going to carry over into this week, you may have time to review those just because they're going to be a point of emphasis. And but the other stuff you really don't have a chance to, and maybe you do that next Monday where you get a chance to kind of break down some of the stuff that going forward throughout the season is going to matter when you look at. But for now, it's really turn the page to Seattle and everything you can do to cram information for that, and also most importantly, get your body ready. So it's a lot of timetable of guys doing whatever it is that gets their bodies ready to roll. And the good thing for us is kind of how we practice in season is Thursday's kind of our bigger day. So I think we're really structured for that to where guys are used to kind of, hey, we know that Thursday's our big practice, and no different than it becoming a game is that really the mentality is to be at your best for that Thursday.
And then with Matthew, obviously this is kind of the first, you guys were rolling through September, right? And this is kind of the first, maybe where there's a little discombobulation. But I'm wondering what you saw from him, if anything, through a much smaller scale in training camp, some of the live reps, and then also some of the practices, the competitive practices that you guys had that gave you guys a sense that this is not, the discombobulation is not the norm, and how maybe he would react to a situation such as Sunday.
Well, I think just the way he carries himself, the way he goes about work every single day. I mean, in practice and training camp, everything else, it's always any mistake or anything that not even a mistake, just something he feels like could have been more efficient or better. He's the first person to criticize himself and to, make sure guys understand, I know it starts with me. And he's always got that demeanor. And look, it takes all of us every week. And so, there's obviously things that, all of us have got to do better, and all of us have got to keep that mentality. But when you're a leader and the guy who's got the football in his hands every single play is wired that way, it makes it pretty easy for everyone to just put down their defensive, attitudes and say, hey, what can I do to help us be better this week? And, this is the NFL. You're going to have weeks where you're off, and you got to find a way to make sure you're on every single week. We talk about it all the time. It's not always the best team that ends up being the best at the end. It's always it's the teams that are able to show up in that 3-hour window every week and be the best during that window. And so we've got to find whatever it is Thursday night to be at our best during that time frame of that game, and lay it out there and get ourselves in a situation where we can take a little weekend break and get ready for the rest of the schedule.
Thanks.
Lindsay.
Hey, Andrew. I'm just wondering, with you guys coming off such a unique season last year with a lot of really quiet stadiums, how do you ensure that you guys are fully prepared for Thursday night in what's typically one of the loudest stadiums in the league?
I think it's one of those things that I don't know that you're ever like truly prepared for away game noise. I think because there's different situations can come up in the game where you've got to communicate, you've got to talk, and it's really loud, and you just kind of fight through it. It's one of those things that when you get in at halftime and you get in after the game, you're always just like, man, it feels like we've been screaming at each other for 2 hours. But it's one of those things that when you get in it and the emotions and everything's going on, you really don't think about it until it goes away. So I think you do your best to prepare for noise through practices with speakers and everything else. But the reality is every game brings its own challenges, and it's just about making sure you over communicate, and also you have a lot of ways to really communicate without having to be verbal, through signs, communications, everything else. I think it really shows how tight a team you have and how much each one of you understands what the goals are week in and week out and what the objective is to execute, because you see those teams usually play pretty well on the road, and noise doesn't matter because they all have a good feel of what the goal is and what each play is designed to do and their job in it.
And then just, I guess, with you guys not really having a normal practice schedule this week where you can really get out there and blast the speakers and do all that, is there anything you guys can do in meetings or anything you've done leading up to this game that you think will be particularly helpful?
I mean, typically in these situations, you would probably say that, a lot of, things you do, whether it's calls, whether it's checks, all of that, you're kind of going to build in to avoid having to use a ton of communication, because you realize that the noise is going to be a factor. And so really offensively and defensively, you just switch depending on whether you're home or away. Like for the defense, when they're at home and they know they're going to have a home crowd, They just prepare differently as far as how they're going to communicate, and we do no different. So for us, we've played really well on the road since we've been here with Sean McVay, and I think that's our expectation, is that we'll have it built in how we can communicate and how we can do things, and we don't look to that to be any excuse or reason for our performance. It's all on us to go out there and execute and play at the level of play that we expect, regardless of whether it's loud or whether you can hear the wind whistling in your ears like you could last year.
Thanks, Andrew.
Stu?
Morning, Andrew. Just when you're, coming off a performance that is uncharacteristic as a unit, and you face a short turnaround like you have this week, what's your message as a captain to the team or the rest of the team as you guys are coming into the building today and just throughout this week as you prepare for Thursday night?
Prove that it's uncharacteristic. It'd be pretty simple. So, it's one of those things that you got to relish moments like this. If you like playing NFL football, if you enjoy sports and competition, then you should love nothing more than an opportunity where you get humbled and you have a chance to respond. And anytime we're blessed with the opportunity to respond, and it's not the last game of the year or a playoff game you lost and your season's over, to me, that's exciting. And so you get a setback, you get a chance where, hey, it wasn't our best day. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter. And but what we do have is an opportunity to respond and show who we are. And I think we look forward to that challenge.
Thank you.
We'll wrap up with Fred. Fred,
Hello, Andrew. Sorry about that.
Sure.
It seems like you guys have had the offensive line has had 4 solid games so far this year. How much of an adjustment do you have to make for each one of the teams that you face or lines that you face? And you expect the same that you've seen from Seattle?
Yeah, I think with Seattle, you're going to get guys that play hard and a defense that flies all over the place. They've kind of always been that, and every week's a new challenge. You go against guys like last week where it's J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones, and Chandler's been one of the best rushers in this league for quite some time, and is a special talent. And then the week before, it's Tampa and their front, and all a bunch of big, powerful guys, and really the things they're able to do to make it tough on you to be able to run the football. And then in Chicago with Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack, who are arguably, one of the better duos of edge rushers there is in the NFL. Obviously for me, I think one of the best those two guys are. So it's, there's been a lot of challenges for us. And I'll be honest, I think guys have really responded to it. And I think it's been great. I think it's a positive look into our season moving forward. Is there things we can do better? Sure. But has the level of play been really, really good? I believe so. And so I think that though, to me, is just a standard that we need to have and a standard that we got to believe in. And it's got to be a strength of this team. And I think we look forward to that and the challenge that it'll present again Thursday night and us responding to that challenge.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's all. Thanks, Whit.
Yep. Thank y'all.